Boy, oh boy, does mommy have a treat for you. I just interviewed Mistress Luna, who is a dominatrix, and I learned a lot. I really didn't know what I was in for. And to be honest, I feel like I kind of blacked out during the whole thing. But she really just kind of pulled the curtain back on what her world is like. She brought some little treats to show us. And I really think you're going to enjoy this one. It's a little bit longer because I had so many questions. You know me, when I get in, it's hard for me to get out. So I'm going to go look up what a ruby shower is. And welcome to Emily Talks To. Okay, we are just going to 5, 6, 7, 8 into this episode because I am so excited and I have a trillion questions.
I'm excited. I can't wait.
So we have Mistress Luna today. She is stunning. She's a dominatrix. She's an artist. Some may say she's a healer. We're going to be healed today.
We're going to be healed today.
Yes.
We'll see.
Oh my gosh. So I just want to hop right in. And I do want to say, if at any point I say something off color, ignorant, so out of bounds, you have to let me know. Call my ass out.
I will. You know, like I said, it's like always just a great time to like educate anytime somebody doesn't understand something or something like silly comes out. So
gorgeous. Okay. So I want to start from the beginning a little bit. What's the origin story? Where did you grow up? First of all. First question.
So I grew up in LA in Arcadia.
Okay.
Pasadena area.
Okay.
So local.
And you've stayed here since?
I've stayed here since, yeah.
Okay. And then what were you like in school growing up?
I was kind of like a dorky out there, you know, marching to the beat of my own drum, kind of a gal.
Love.
I had like a best friend and it was just her and I glued to each other,
Mm-hmm.
you know, throughout all of adolescence and teen years.
Fun. So were you more of like the quiet kid? Did you get good grades? Were you like a theatrical kid? Like how would I kind of like pick you out of the crowd? Or what would be your like descriptors?
Well, in middle school, I was in theater.
Okay.
And I made my own clothes and I was really big into like home economics and throwing parties.
Throwing parties?
Throwing parties. My parents loved having parties and people over.
Okay.
And so I would like make flyers and pass them out at school and then throw rangers in 7th grade.
Obsessed.
But like I wasn't like a popular kid by any means. Like
You're just throwing these lit ass parties.
just throwing these lit ass
What was
parties.
happening at them?
You know.
Tell me. Did Doctor get a little weird sometimes? Were we watching That So Raven? Like, what was the vibe?
I would say like 7 Minutes in Heaven.
Sure.
Light drinking.
Sure.
Streaking.
Yeah.
You know, just very like mild PG-13.
Okay.
Fun.
And were your parents in on it?
Not like that part, but they just were ecstatic that people, you know, they just loved having people over and just didn't really care.
We love your parents.
We love my parents.
Okay, so then what were you like at a slumber party? Like, I feel like each kid kind of had their thing. Were you the one that would call their parents to pick you up? Were you the one that never wanted to sleep? Like, what was kind of your storyline at slumber parties?
So I always had my mom come pick me up right as the girls were going to sleep.
Okay.
I hated sleeping over at people's houses. Mm-hmm. And then my mom would drive me over in the morning and drop me off for like breakfast and like in the morning time.
Oh, so you bamboozled everyone.
So, well, I mean, all the girls were in on it. And I always had sleepovers at my house because I didn't like sleeping over at people's houses.
Right.
But then I always slept over at my best friend's house. And so just I had one person, I was like, okay, I can stay with you.
Yeah. Like that was the safe space.
That was the safe space. But I was also the girl that would like pretend to be like my mother and call other girls' parents and say that we were all doing something.
No way.
And
Wait, like you would rat them out?
No. I would pretend to be my mom and get their mother's permission for them to sleep over at my house.
Oh.
And then, so I was the mother, and I pretended all the time, and I would we would scheme and like do, sneak out or go have fun.
So you were like a little bit of a rebellious kid.
I would say so.
Sure, but like in the realms of normal teenage.
In normal teenage, I was definitely rebellious.
Okay. Fun.
Yes.
Did you ever get in like any trouble?
Light
trouble.
Light trouble.
Okay. Nothing too crazy.
Nothing too crazy,
Yeah.
Definitely didn't go to the same schools.
Sure, we bopped around a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did a little residency here, had a residency here.
You had to.
I was popular. I was in demand at different high schools, obviously. Had to make my appearance.
People had to meet you.
They did,
Okay, love, but like no DUIs,
no.
I mean, shout out to DUIs. So chic if you got one, especially if you were under 18, because it just like went off your record.
I know.
Like, what a joke.
I know. It really is.
It's like, just don't give them. No, that's bad advice. That's bad advice.
We should give them.
Yeah, we should give DUIs.
But, yeah.
Yeah.
I would say that I was very, like, subtly dominant my whole life in school.
Okay, and how did that manifest?
In, like, second grade, there was a boy who said that he would let me pull his ear if he could hang out with me at recess. And so I pulled this kid's ear, so much so that I got in trouble, not because he told on me, but the teacher saw how much I liked it.
No
And
way.
So I got in trouble. And then in middle school and high school, I had these boys that would always want to like do things for me.
Okay.
And my mom called them my puppy dogs.
Okay, we're obsessed with your mom.
And
She's so in on this?
She really is, and she's the sweetest.
Yeah.
And yeah, she would call them my puppies. And I would have different puppies that
So you could like command a space.
I could command a space, but it was just like people wanted to do things for me. And
right.
Just these really sweet boys would just carry my books for me, or like bring me gifts, or write me poems, and just like all of the things. And not like I have like a crush on you, like, but like puppy dog, like
right.
just like if I said to do something, they would like do it. And
oh my god, did it ever get physical? No,
like just purely wanted to just hang out with me.
Right. And do these like acts of service.
Was
it, I mean, did you feed off of kind of like the power you had in that dynamic?
It felt very genuine. It didn't feel like I was like had like this power over them. It felt like there was just like a deep respect, and because none of these like puppies tried to like fool around with me, and all of these puppies were just like respecting me. And so I think that kind of like sparked this attraction to like devotion in like a platonic way, and like not even like, oh, friends, like we can be loyal to our friends, but I don't want my friends to be like devoted to me, like I don't.
It's a completely different, right.
So, but it was like this different type of like devotion.
Okay, you were made for this work, because I feel like if anyone else that age were to have that kind of attention or devotion, they would abuse it. But like you knew your power.
It just didn't, like, these were very sweet kids, like it wasn't like I was trying to be mean to them,
right.
And at times I did feel bad, because I was like, when you're young, you're like, are they expecting anything? What is the framework of this? But like I've actually been in contact with several of them throughout the years, and they're very submissive, and they're very, as like adults, and several of them have told me that now with their partners they are submissive, and
oh my gosh.
I am part of their origin story for subs. And I mean, it's like varying degrees, but like one just loves dominant women, and like this other one is like, now I'm really into cross-dressing, which is completely different from the type of dynamic that I had with him growing up. And it's just like very subtle, and also, you know, not subtle at the same time.
Right, like when you look back, you're like, okay, that makes sense.
That makes sense. Like, that checks out.
Wow. Okay, so then how did you then, what was like the steps you took to get into this industry, or did the industry kind of find you?
Well, so, you know, my story of becoming a dom is very interesting because one of my best friends out of high school started doing porn, and maybe around like 18 we were invited to like the club. They got us in, you know, we're young, and I'm at a private area, and this guy, he's 6'3", comes up. He's in a kilt. He has a huge mohawk.
Okay.
And he says, my sub isn't here. I'm doing like a performance soon. Like, can anybody like step in? Is anybody like comfortable coming on stage with me? And everyone was like, go to me. And I was like, I'm kind of the type of person that like I want to go for things. I love trying new things.
You just say yes.
I just said yes.
And were you drinking at the time?
No, I think I wasn't drinking.
Okay.
And so I went on stage, and he was like, I did not know anything about BDSM, did not know anything about consent, did not know anything about anything. And
you're so
just
brave,
so vanilla, so green, just doe-eyed, you know.
You're like, sure.
You know, I look so young still.
Oh my God.
So I go on stage with him, and he tells me, we're gonna do, like, I'm gonna hit you with this thing, and he pulls out a flogger, and I was like, okay, and he like has me feel it and touch it, and he kind of goes over some stuff with me very lightly, and he says, if you're uncomfortable at any time, something hurts, you're not okay, just, you know, whatever, I'm gonna give you like this napkin, and I want you to drop it, and I'll stop right away, and we'll be done, and, you know, don't worry. And he was so sweet, and I was like, okay, like, this makes sense, this sounds fun, like, I'm into it. And so we go on stage, and we do like an hour performance or something. I mean, in my memory, it was an hour.
My God.
It was insane. He flogged me. He had like this electro wand, and like, I was like, what the fuck?
Were you in your body as it was happening, or was it such like a novelty experience that you just were kind of like, oh, I'll process this later? Or
I was so present and so focused, and it was like time kind of slowed down in this like, you know, movie, but it was like so euphoric and just kind of like, I was very alive. Yeah. And prior to experiencing this, I started to experience a lot of chronic pain. I was injured, and so this kind of took my pain away. And so I was like absolutely fascinated by that experience, because my pain kind of transformed. And chronic pain is such like an interesting thing, because it's such like a unique experience to people, and you don't know how to like process it or embody it, or like even, you know, I'm like stumped. I'm at a loss of words because it's so hard to describe.
And it can turn psychological as well. I feel like when you have it for so long, you identify with the chronic pain, and then there've been like those studies where there's like placebo effects, where if you believe that the pain is gone, you can get rid of. I mean, it's so beyond me.
I watch those.
You're in on this.
I'm in on it. I'm like, I have tried so many things for chronic pain. Yeah. And so when I'm 18, I don't know what pain is. I'm young. Right. And so this experience was very empowering, because it was a different way for me to channel and process and be in charge of my pain. Whoa. And really experience it differently. Yeah. And so I kept going back to these spaces, and I was a submissive. And when you grow up, and I'm sure you can relate, just cartoons as like a kid, women are just often taught to be submissive. Totally. We're trained and conditioned to have that mindset of like, yes sir, thank you, and like, how can I
people
be of service? People pleasers,
let's
not speak up, blah blah blah. Right. And so aside from like really being captivated by like this channel of pain changing, I was really also so confused by the idea of consent. I went home that night and I was like, I didn't even know what to Google because it, you know, when I kept going back to these spaces, people would ask like, can I dance with you? And I would be like, what do you mean? Can you dance with me? Can I put my hand on your like hips? You know, there was so much consent.
Was it almost off-putting?
It was off-putting to the point where it's like I didn't know what to Google.
Right.
Like I was like, okay, why do people keep asking if I like am okay with this? Because you know, I'm also 18, been in clubs, whatever, and people have come up and touched you and groped you, and it's just like, you know, it's like not assault, but it's like kind of, you're just like uncomfortable.
Right.
And so it's,
now this is like a hyper safe
situation, and people are dressed up like thematically, and there's little like performances, and there's all these like people, like such a community. And I was
How do you know about these parties, by the way? From your friend?
From my friend.
Okay, so it's all like word of mouth?
Well, at the time it was word of mouth. Now, you know, you can look up parties like this, and it's easily accessible.
Okay. So they were like a little more coveted back then.
For me, they were. You know, and so just because I did not know, I was so young. I'm 18.
Wow.
And you know, so at the time, you get like this character. You have like a different name. You change your name and your identity, like, or when you go in, so people. My friend was like, change your name, give yourself like an identity, an alias, so that when you go in, you know, you're not Luna, you're somebody else. And I'm like, great. So I went by Charlotte, and doing that and going to these parties as Charlotte really changed my life in the sense that like before I was very shy. I didn't know how to say yes. I didn't know how to say no. I felt like I was kind of like a little bit of a doormat. I was bullied into like, and so having this person Charlotte do things that Luna wouldn't do gave Luna the voice to kind of step out of patterns and things with people in my personal life by being Charlotte.
Right.
And it was this really therapeutic part of how I am today, and that breaking
so you could integrate
cycles, and I could integrate the voice that I learned to have and speak for myself.
Wow.
And then it was kind of like merging the two, and I like stepped out of unhealthy and like abusive relationships and dynamics with people and being walked on, and then like I created safety for myself.
I love
like
that.
This sense of identity that was more than chronic pain, more than what people projected onto me. And you know, I was learning my identity, kind of going through that, and
you almost kind of had to like go so far out of yourself to come back, like create this identity to feel safe and to explore, to then integrate back and become this like one being. Is that what I'm gathering?
100%.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
It was this out of body experience
to come back into your body.
And
wow.
It just So
then from 18, how did you then build your clientele as a dom?
So I didn't start getting into like the dom world until about 5 years ago.
Okay.
So up until that point, I was kind of doing the subby thing, kind of in and out of the scene, sometimes going to parties, sometimes not, you know, just what was accessible or, you know, what came my way, word of mouth, whatever.
Right.
And then I went through, I was dating somebody, and we were together for 5.5 years. And
while you were a sub?
While I was,
Okay.
And I really wanted to become a dom. I was like, I don't think I'm submissive at all. I think that this is like, you know, I was breaking cycles in my life and changing so many things that you know, breaking agreements and, you know, creating who I was. And I was like, no, I'm not submissive. I'm a fucking dom, and I want to like take charge of my life. And he was not about it. He was like, I just don't think that's like for you or for like us.
Don't you love when someone tells you who you are?
I was like,
it's the best.
I was like, oh,
sweetie, thanks.
Like, and I I was like, if that's going to be how this is, then what am I going to do in 5.5 years?
But also, doesn't that make you, yeah.
Like, what am I agreeing to if I can't be myself or explore those things? I want to, maybe I do dominant things and I decide, it's not for me. But like, I don't want somebody to tell me no.
Right. Oh my God, that would make me want to do it even more.
And instantly the relationship is just gone for me. And it just was, time to move on.
Yeah. Okay, so this is a semi-recent-ish. I mean, 5 years, that's still a good amount of time.
But it is very recent.
Okay.
And it wasn't like I jumped right into it. I started doing foot domination. And
what does that
torture.
mean? So like your feet?
My feet.
Okay.
And foot worship and foot domination. And so guys would pay me just to worship my feet, play with my feet, bite my feet, stuff like that. I would stomp on people and tickle people. The tickle torture, tie somebody up and tickle them for a few hours. And
they're finding you how then? Through like websites or through?
So I had a few friends who were into this stuff, and they had reached out to me because I am very open and not shy about things in my life. I'm a very open book. And so they're like, I know that you're into this. Would you ever be interested in letting me like suck on your toes? And I was like,
love.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But the kicker is I was a nanny and I had like a little business where I was like a temporary personal assistant to mothers and others. And so I would like help you with your laundry and like, organize your closets and, stuff like that for families.
Yeah.
And so I was watching these 2 girls and I became friends with the family. And one day the mom and I were folding clothes and she is a dominatrix. And it turns out that we both know the godfather of dominatrix or of doming.
Okay.
Or BDSM. And has her PhD in psychology and has been a dominatrix for 25 years.
Did you know that going into working with this? Oh, stop it.
She told me she was a therapist, and I remember sometimes I'd like work late nights past midnight and I'd be like, what type of fucking therapy is this?
You're like, we need to let me in.
Give me the tea. And so she was like, oh my gosh, like you're subby, I'm a dom. And so then I did kind of subby stuff with her and for her. And then she gave me some foot clients and then some like panty slaves. And then like her sister hired me, who's also a dom. And then I had a roommate who lived in my basement and I dominated him. And he was into sissy forced femme play. And so then
Can you describe what that is?
So it's forced feminization, which is dressing up like a female.
Okay.
And sissy play is female play, dressing up like a little girl or like not like child, but like a girl.
Sure.
That's like a different thing.
Yeah.
And so we kind of had like this super fun dynamic. And
is he paying you?
No. Well,
this was more like practice
this is just fun. Like, so people do this like work, but it's like lifestyle. Like with their partners or with their friends or, so you don't have to be pro to have long relationships that are like dom and sub energy exchanges. And so, but he would buy me gifts and give me money from time to time. But like we were really good friends.
Got it.
Yeah.
So then are most of your clients men? Do you have
most of my clients are men.
Okay.
I play with girls at parties, but most of my clients are men.
Okay. And is a lot of it referral? Like, do the men all kind of like know each other somehow? Like, is it kind of this like cyclical?
I would love that.
You're like, do you know Rob? And they're like, wait, Billy, how are you? Or is it just kind of like random?
There's advertising websites.
Okay.
So I have ads on several different websites, and people that are looking to like play with a professional will find me through these. Sometimes I get referred to by like somebody who either by like another mistress who's like, oh, you should go see Luna, or by a friend who's like, oh, like I know this one person who's a dom and you should go see her or whatever.
Because your website is exquisite. I mean, whoever is taking your photos, good Lord.
Thank you.
You're like this goddess, the light. Oh my God, it's incredible. So is there someone that you would love to work with? Like a celebrity, or do you have like a dream? Even if it's not a specific person, maybe like a type of person that would be like your end all be all dream.
Oh my God. I need to think about that. That's such a good question.
It's so random.
But it's like, that's a really great random question.
Thank you.
Yes.
Or do you have a favorite client maybe? Maybe someone that you've worked with in the past who just like you love when he comes to you?
I do have a favorite client.
Okay. What makes a favorite client your favorite?
I think like there's like this like Venn diagram of all the things I'm into.
Okay.
And when I can just part conversation where you guys just have like I have like a banter with them, but they're so submissive, and the tension is always great, and the play is really fun, and they're always want to do whatever I want to do.
They just like fully submit to you.
And there's a lot of people who are like that for me. They want to do whatever I want to do, whatever makes me happy. But there's like a certain type of energy of like wanting to be like a guinea pig, or wanting to like explore different things, and being like and absolutely devoted.
Oh,
I really love the devotion.
Well, because it's probably like they come to you and they're like, let's fucking go. I will give all of myself to you. And you're like, trust me, this is going to be incredible. There's no like kind of weariness around it. Like, is that what is so appealing to these clients, is that they're just like so committed to you? Not committed like romantically, but to the practice of it?
So sometimes, wait, can you repeat?
Yeah, like, is it that when you're in a session and someone is, I don't know if committed is the right word, like someone would come to you and be like, you have full control, like they just submit like 100%. Is that what makes a session so enjoyable to you? Like, is there ever times where maybe they're a little like resistant, or like not willing to go all the way?
You can feel when people are resistant.
Okay.
So that does happen, but it's usually not a personal thing about me. It's usually like where they're at, why they're here, how they're processing. When people come in, like my favorite sub, when we first started seeing each other, the first several sessions, there was like this hesitancy to like let go. But once they finally did, it was this pure surrender, and watching people come home to themselves and seeing that like that growth and that joy and this just blind follow and this blind faith that is so pure is like really, really beautiful.
So that's like the most fulfilling part for you, would you say, is that seeing that surrender, or like seeing that openness?
Yeah, seeing that openness for them, but then also being absolutely like adored. There's like all of these things that kind of like balance out. So it's like a percent of this, a percent of this, a percent of this, that make it like all one thing.
Yeah, because I was going to ask, like, where in this process do you derive pleasure? Like, is it by proxy of their pleasure, or like is the whole experience something that you...
The whole experience is something and through them as well, but being obeyed, watching when subs fall into subspace, but like watching this blind, I don't know how to like describe. I'm like, hold on, let me articulate myself. Give me a moment.
No, totally. Well, it's also, I'm sure each session is probably so different. So it's
every
like,
session is very different, but it's almost like they'll gobble up whatever is in your hand. And this like complete surrender to whatever whim that I have, and that power that I have over you fuels me. And watching you like melt into this puddle of nonverbal, or like you're just out of body.
Right.
And me like taking that from you.
It's something so visceral, it sounds like there's something that transcends words, emotions, like you are feeling their experience.
It is very visceral.
Wow.
And it is very like, I speak sign language, and so I feel like very in tune with people's bodies, and sometimes I'm like, I can feel you thinking, like you need to just like stop right now.
Yeah.
And then it's like, Mistress, I'm so sorry, you're right. Like I had this past Sunday session, and I'm putting makeup on her, and I'm like, where are you? Where are you? Because you're not here. And and it was just this moment where I could just feel it shift. And I'm so like,
you're intuitive.
I'm so intuitive and so sensitive to, because if I'm bringing myself, my energy is solely for you in our time together, and your energy is solely for me. And so when it's that energy exchange, and there is an energy exchange, you can really feel it. Sometimes people come in, and I've like gotten a lot better at vetting people, but sometimes people would come in and there was not an exchange, and it was so stagnant, and you could feel it, and it just was like, you know, we're not a good fit, or like but like you couldn't
like break through to
break
them?
through, and it wasn't like a breakthrough, but like just because you're playing and they're having a great time, but the energy just feels stagnant. And so like they enjoyed themselves, talked about it, wrote me a lovely message, and you know, but like I'm like, no, that was not like as fulfilling as like an energy exchange, like just like this conversation. This is a great energy exchange between us.
We are exchanging energy, guys. It's palpable, baby. So then what does a session with you look like? Maybe that's a really broad question because it can be so specific, but if I were to, do I need to come with you with like a specific list of things that I want you to do, or do you kind of guide the session, or is it kind of that push and pull a little?
So a lot of times people will come in and say, I love these things.
Okay.
And then sometimes people come in and say, I just want an experience with a dominant woman.
Okay.
And I don't know what I like. I don't know what I want. I've seen several mistresses. We've done a little bit of this. We've done a little bit of this. I don't know.
And when you say men, do you have a space like designated to this?
I rent a dungeon space.
Okay.
So I session out of 2 places mostly. And then, you know, if I travel, I will visit a dungeon in the hometown or the town that I'm visiting.
Okay, so there's like neutral third-party spaces.
Yes.
People don't go to your home per se.
There's my home.
Okay.
There's like a neutral space that has all of the equipment that you need, all of the toys and things of that nature. So
Okay. So then they show up.
But so sometimes what I tell people is, if you have like a list of things that you like, I will take all of them into consideration. So it's not like a guarantee. You're not coming in and you're saying, this please.
Right.
Like, this isn't like a menu. You're not ordering off of this.
Right.
Like, you can tell me the things that you're interested in, and I will take that into consideration.
But you're the dom.
But I'm the dom. And that's considered like topping from the bottom, when people are like, no, like I want to do like, and like I won't do that.
Yeah.
And if it makes sense for what I want to do to you, like we'll do that. But then again, there is that balance of somebody is seeking your services because if someone loves bondage and they're like, you know, I need bondage, I'm not going to be like, well, I might not do that. Like,
sure.
You know, like, 'cause that's not, you know, like, unless that's part of like their psychological kink is to not be fulfilled in some way, then you would do bondage.
Sure.
But you know, you want to have that, like, that kink, the thing that they can, and the kink is something that has to be present.
So there's a little bit of a roadmap.
There is a little bit of you know, but I have things that I absolutely won't do.
Okay.
And things that like I absolutely love doing, and I'll do them even if you don't request them, because it makes me like, I love seeing you like this, and I love having you like that, and so.
Well, and then maybe they'll love it too.
And exactly. So.
Well, and I also saw on your website, so you have your strict boundaries.
Yes.
Which I learned so much with that too. So there's never sex.
There's never sex.
Never sex. Never nudity on your end.
Never nudity.
You said a boundary is FTT/scat. Can you explain what FTT is?
It's full toilet.
Got it. So some people want to be like defecated on.
Yes.
Okay. Is it always on their body? Do they ever want it like inside of them?
I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm not having
not
this,
your thing.
Not my thing.
Okay.
I mean,
okay.
if they are like, that's something that like we shouldn't do for health reasons.
Sure.
You know, you don't do ass to mouth.
Yeah.
Like that's like that's a health
yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
You know, like.
So then, can we talk about then boundaries? Like, are there ever? Well, first of all, when you're when you're with a client, do you ever break character? Like, are there ever moments where either like an emergency happens or are you always...
Well, it's not... The best type of sessions is when I could just be my full self. And so
the space in between is small.
Is so small.
Yeah.
So there have been times where I hurt my arm, where I like kind of sprained my arm. And so I was doing a flogging session and I had to end about an hour early. It was a 4-hour session, 3 hours in. And I'm like, I don't think I could do another hour of this without like really hurting my arm.
Right.
And so I just, stopped and was like, I'm like, my arm hurts. I never say I'm sorry. Those are words that never come out of my mouth.
Sure.
Even if I hit you in the wrong place, what I will do is I will place my hand on your back or hand in the space where it is. I'm sorry is not something that I will typically say unless I'm completely out of line, but I have a lot of respect for people and it's not something. So I just was like, unfortunately I did hurt my arm and we're going to have to end a little bit early and everybody wants what's best for me. Can I rub your arm, whatever you need, they're apologizing to me, so there is not like this character that I feel like I'm like breaking. I kind of like...
It's less theatrical.
And I like being very like authentic with people and being like, just me.
I love that.
And even when I'm like extremely like wicked or like dark, there is like this very tenderness that it's like the same plane of even just casually talking like this.
Do you ever surprise yourself then? Like if you ever get, like you just said, like if things ever get dark internally, maybe maybe they don't pick up on it, but do you ever have a moment internally where you're like, whoa, I didn't even know I had that in me? Or like...
sometimes I get like really excited, but like I'll just like don't know what's gonna come out of my mouth like when I'm like just like on one and I'm like, fuck, that was so good.
You're like, mental note, use that again.
And and I'll even like say like, that was so fucking hot that I said that right now, and your tiny little brain could not even process it, and I have to say it again because I was just so obsessed with what I just said. Right.
So it's not only, I don't know if this is the right word to use, degrading. Like, it's not only degrading them, it's also boosting yourself up in the sessions, right? Like, do you almost, like, make yourself out to, like, be this, like, empress queen woman? Like,
well, I mean, naturally, that's why they're there.
Yeah,
is that, but I don't necessarily, it really just depends on, like, the person. Everybody kind of brings out a different side of me. And sometimes, like, people really bring out this where them being kind of like putty or the way that they like respond to you just fuel your sadistic nature or like your goddess energy or like your queen shit or your authoritarian and so that's like that energy exchange. So how they respond or react or how they just like what they're putting out fuels what's gonna come out of me. And so like it's like you get what you put into it. And
that's so fun. So how do you like pre-game, air quotes, for a session? Like, what's like your pre-workout? What do you do to get your head in the game? Or like what's your routine before a session?
So before you meet with me, we have like a half an hour phone call and I just like ask you a bunch of different questions. And we go over like details and I make it known that you are responsible for asking questions and clarifying anything you do not understand. It's not up to me to clarify anything. If you read something and you don't know what it means, you have to ask me. If you don't, and so on and so forth. You don't understand something, that's for you to discuss with me. So it's open platform to ask me questions and understand what we're about to go into. But as far as like before a session, I typically like to like get ready at home and I have a little adrenal cocktail, which is a non-alcoholic beverage.
Is it like orange juice, coconut milk, salt, something like that? Okay, okay.
And then I put like 5-HTP and CBD, and I'm rocking and rolling, listen to some music, or like watch like a cooking show in the background. Actually has been something recently, and like one of my fantasies is just like having someone call me chef over and over again. Sometimes it happens.
We need to make that happen.
It is so, because I just get riled up, and I'm like, I'm about to bake that ass. I'm about to fucking cook you up. So,
oh my gosh. So you have your thing down, like your routine.
I have my routine down. Okay. And I get to the space and I set up, I kind of walk through, like I've written out what I want the session to be, but I leave a lot of room for it just to kind of go wherever I feel. So I typically write out like the bones of it, and then the energy and us kind of create the meat of the flow of it. And so I make sure I get out everything so I don't have to spend too much time rummaging through stuff. And then I get dressed, finish getting ready, and then
it just goes. So then if you have, like, how do you wind down? Like, if you have a particularly kind of like intense session, what do you do after?
Yeah, so with an intense session, I definitely do aftercare with my sub, and in some ways that's aftercare for me as well. So I'll sit in my throne, and I always kind of start at the throne and I end at the throne, and they'll be kneeling on like a towel in front of me, and I'll have them have their head on my lap and, you know, kind of pat their head. And it's like, that is probably the most skin to skin intimacy. At the very end, when I have them put their cheek on my knee. And people usually don't try to touch me because they know what this is and they know what this isn't. That's not called for. So that kind of breathing together, that is also comforting to me, and it's like an aftercare to me. But then I go home, I do like a hot shower, steam, and just, you know, read or journal, or you know, put on something. I've got 3 cats. They're always waiting for me to get home. So,
Okay, so you've got it down. You're not fucking around.
No, I want to get it.
Amazing. So then, okay, you brought some things
to show you.
Yeah.
So
what are these fun toys?
This is called a cane.
Okay, so for the listeners, it's like a thin wooden. It almost looks like a bamboo.
Yes,
shoot,
like a switch.
Yes.
And so it stings.
Okay.
This is like for the ass.
Okay.
And yeah, this is small, thin, but painful.
Okay, so it's like a stinging, kind of like biting feeling. Yeah. Okay. Love.
And this is your classic crop. This is a staple.
Okay. Flatter.
Yes, it's flatter. It's got I don't even know what shape this is, so I can't describe.
It's like a little, like a upside down triangle almost, and it's leather?
Yeah, it's leather.
Okay.
And sometimes I go to the equestrian store and buy crops because they are like good quality and cheaper than BDSM stores.
Huh.
So
okay,
just a little fun fact. This is not from an equestrian store. But
got it. And so when that feels less bitey,
this is very stingy. This is like a sting and a thud.
Okay.
It's more a sting, but there's like a thud after tone.
Got it. And are these ever used on the face? Like, do men ever?
No, never on the face.
Okay.
I mean, I guess you could, but I wouldn't.
Not your cup of tea. Okay.
And I don't think that, you know, that should.
Yeah.
But you can put them at the bottom of the feet, the ass.
Okay.
The thighs.
Those are kind of the general
areas. The more meatier areas is where you would hit with. Yeah,
I was like, damn, if that hit a bone, ooh!
Yeah, there's like parts of the body where you don't step on it if you're stepping on somebody, and you avoid organs if you're... I did bring a whip here. This is just
like a proper whip.
Yeah, this is just a very simple whip, though.
It's
just a...
How do you learn how to use that? Like, my dumbass, if I tried using that, I'd be like, oh, this poor girl. Like, it would just be so sad.
A lot of practice.
Okay.
I did take a class that kind of taught me very extreme things. So this was like on the lighter end, and then on the more extreme end, I learned how to put needles in someone's balls.
What?
And, you know, so...
Like acupuncture style?
Like through, like, the skin.
Through the skin.
Through, like, the nipples. You know, there's a lot of fun things that you can do to people.
Do you have to, like, alcohol swab the area first?
Yes.
So there's
like... You alcohol swab the shit out of things and clean. Yeah, it's a very sterile environment.
Okay.
I feel like I could eat off almost every surface just because it's wiped. Everything is wiped out.
Yeah. Very clean.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I'm thinking if I were to be a dominatrix, my torture item would have to be, remember when you would, you know, the little scooters, razors that we had as a kid? When that shit hit your ankle, someone has to be into that pain.
I mean, I might need to steal that and do that to somebody.
Right? Like, I really thought that my life was ending when that happened. Oh my gosh. Well, thank you. That's so, like, eye-opening. And I'm sure there's also, like, I've seen, like, flogs, right? Those have, like, the...
Yes.
Like, multiple pieces.
Multiple pieces at the end. I love flogging.
Okay.
Like flogger.
And that one, like, doesn't hurt as much, right?
No,
it's more like just pressure.
Yeah, it's more pressure. It's very thuddy.
Okay.
I love being flogged. Sometimes I'll have my other dom friends, like, flog me. It feels really nice.
Yeah,
It looks very intimidating, but it's not.
Okay,
It feels good. I mean, but then there's, you know, different textures, different weights. Sometimes people put little balls on it, so when it hits, it hurts more. So there's different levels of
flogging.
Flogging.
Are these tax write-offs? Is that a dumb question? Like,
no,
can you?
They are definitely tax write-offs.
Amazing.
Conventions I go to, tax write-offs.
Yeah.
Toys, tax write-off. Makeup, tax write-off.
Yeah. We're
Clothes.
Really peeling the curtain right now. I need to know the inside scoop. Wow.
So I definitely keep track of everything and pay my taxes.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Okay, so with every episode, I do a little bit of word association.
Okay.
So I'm going to give you 5 words, and you tell me the first thing that comes to mind. Word, phrase, person, just whatever comes to the brain. First word, whip.
Back.
Nipple clamps.
Fun.
Safe word.
Good.
If you give a mouse a cookie.
Make them come.
Build-A-Bear.
Oh, no.
It's a little spooky. I remember I walked across, there's a Build-A-Bear in, like, the Glendale Mall or something. They're terrifying now.
Yeah, I don't know why. I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like back in the day it was, like, a little homey. They had, like, I mean, it is weird, like, stuffing a bear in its, like, asshole as, like, a child.
Now you're making me want to change my mind.
You're like, now I'm obsessed. Yeah, but now they're so sterile. I'm like, I don't know about this. So, question for you. Is there a time frame of aging out of this industry? Like, is there longevity in it? Like, can you be in your 60s, 70s, 80s doming? Or do you feel like at some point it becomes, like, physically taxing?
I think that you can definitely age with it.
Yeah.
You know, I know women who, and maybe not like active doming, but education is so important. Because there's a lot of girls on Twitter that are like, I'm a dom, and, like, are doing, like, actual harm to people, like, psychologically, because they don't understand, like, the types of things that they're getting into, or understand like degradation versus humiliation.
Okay.
But I do think that at some point, like, my mentor dommed while she was pregnant up until 2 weeks, and then went to work 2 weeks after she had her daughters.
Yeah.
So it really just, like, depends on the person, and who you are as like you change with the industry or things that you're into. I have, like, a list of things that I said that I would, like, never do, and, like, things that I'm like, okay, maybe I would do that, and things that I'm like, you know, because I'm, like, keeping track of, like, how I'm changing and how I'm growing with what my perception of the work is and what my perception of interpersonal relationships are in this world, and all of that.
Right. So then do your boundaries change then as you change? Like, who you were maybe 2 years ago, would your sessions have looked different then than they do now?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Just and it's not even, like, boundaries, it's just education, or, like, who I am as like an artist in this space changes. And so I would say there is a level of boundaries that change, even if they're emotional boundaries or non-emotional boundaries, physical boundaries. And I mean, that doesn't change being like touched during session, but that changes from person to person.
Got it.
I definitely have different boundaries with every single person is completely different. And then I have a set boundary that nobody falls under that. And then I have stricter boundaries and then a lot looser boundaries with other people. So.
And do those come into play based on like how long you've known a client or like how?
Most of it is about time, but a lot of it is about energy. I do like to be somebody that feels like you can't buy access to certain parts of my energy or my life. And I think that that's like a misconception with certain subs or certain people. Sometimes it's like, oh, I can just buy access to this. Or I've had many conversations of, well, I'll just pay you more so that I can see you naked. And it's like, no,
it doesn't work like that.
It doesn't work like that. That's not the, like, you can't buy access to like this,
part of you. Yeah. So this is so random, and this is honestly, who knows where this even came from, but do you have super vivid dreams?
I do have very vivid dreams.
Okay. Like very, do you have recurring dreams? Is there like a theme?
I sometimes have recurring dreams, and there is definitely a theme. Sometimes I have dreams that are very realistic.
Okay.
And that I'm like, okay, yeah, that, like, I should do that, actually.
Right.
So I do have very vivid dreams, almost too vivid.
Do you ever have nightmares?
Sometimes I have nightmares,
but
I would say I have more, like, stress dreams.
Yeah,
than
had
nightmares.
One this morning.
And
yeah,
but
okay.
I would say more just, like, there's, like, a lot happening. I dream just, like, a lot.
Yeah, just a very active mind.
Active mind.
Do you ever have either people or situations that were just like unsavory and that like in your years of being in this industry that like you've had to either cut out of your life or like just any kind of stories that didn't go well? Or has it been pretty positive your whole?
It's mostly been pretty positive.
Okay.
You vet people.
Right.
You interview people.
Right.
This is not of course there's assholes and there's people who are going to push boundaries and, try to shake the frame or are upset by a woman who feels dominant and, or threatened by the situation. But for the most part, I've had a pretty good experience. I've had several moments that have been like very good experiences for me to have to kind of be like, okay, like can't let this happen.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I've had pretty good experiences.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, and I feel like, if you're having these interviews beforehand, you're kind of getting a sense of what you're getting into, who this person might be. And then, of course, if you're getting referrals, that's probably a great way to vet people as well. Yeah. And okay.
Yeah, and usually people are handcuffed almost instantly when coming in. You lose
your
hands.
We love that.
I have like a no hands policy. Like,
got it. Got it.
If all of my clients could be cut off at the elbow,
amazing.
I would love that.
Yeah, yeah. So then if you don't mind me asking, what has your dating life been like in this industry? Like, is it hard to date? Do you find that it actually is, you find people that are really drawn to the fact that you do this?
Dating has been good, I would say. Not, I've really only dated very supportive people who've really understood, haven't been jealous about like the work I do. They know that this is work and that this isn't like I'm having relationships or like a different type of intimacy. So I've had nothing but like respect.
Amazing.
And so people that are worth me giving time to, all are very supportive of it and are either mildly in it or not at all, or like I'm more interested in, like, I have like a type, but like I'm more interested in like my type of person rather than like the like interests.
Yeah.
But also interests,
Yeah, it's like a whole.
It's like a whole thing.
Yeah. So in your personal relationships, do you also prefer to be more dominant?
Yes and no. It really just kind of like depends. I like most people who come to see me, they want to shut their brain off and kind of either fulfill a fantasy or not have to think and just obey and just do what they're told. And sometimes I want to turn my brain off, but I wouldn't consider myself to be like super submissive in that moment. But I would just I do like the aspect of not having to think, but that would be the most submissive part about me in that regards. So I do like a balance, but it really just also depends
on like the person or like the situation
and
or
myself and kind of like what I need and what like my partner needs. And it's like a, you know, we're co-orgasming, we're you know, so we should discuss that. And
well, and it reminds me, I interviewed a sex coach and she talked about that too, how even if you're in a relationship for 10, 20, 30 years, it's going to change. Like what you wanted when you first started dating is going to be different in 2, 5, 10 years. It's going to be different the next week. Like to keep that, you know, that flow and that communication going, I feel like is so key. And a lot of people can be very threatened by like, well, you liked that before, do you not like it anymore? Like, am I not good at this? And it's like, it has nothing to do with that. It's just, it's a journey.
It is a journey. And it's like, so as much as it is sensation, it's so psychological in how things kind of progress. Even people who start doing, you know, seeing a mistress or are interested in kink and BDSM in their early 20s and now are in their 60s have completely different things that were sparked because of this experience and then manifested into this and then this and this. And so being able to know that about yourself and be secure in understand, I think like sex security is...
It's a journey.
It's a journey, you know? And
yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay, so I end every episode with the same question. What is something you wish more people understood about you? Whether that's in the context of being a dominatrix or whether that's just in the context of you as an individual. What's something you wish more people knew or understood?
I think, you know, I know you asked me this yesterday and like I thought about it and I have like so many different responses for this, but that like just that this is such like a loving place.
Totally.
And you can want to be kicked in the balls and I can kick people in the balls and it's very loving and hurt people, but it's loving, and degrade somebody, but it's loving, and it's for them and it's ethical, and that it's healing, and that there are parameters within that, and it's not just blindly being mean to people.
Yeah.
And it's understanding what that does for somebody and using it with like honor and respect and integrity. So,
totally. Yeah. I also think it's also a bigger thing too of like, even if you don't understand something, or maybe if you don't experience what these men want, that doesn't mean that it's not legit or that it's not a very real experience for them. I feel like some people may look at it and be like, why would you want to be whipped or put in pain? And it's like, listen, that's their story. It's how they want to experience intimacy, love, care, whatever that is. And you're the spirit guy to do it.
That's right.
I love it. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Mistress Luna, I am obsessed. I honestly want to be a fly on the wall. I feel like
I'll put you in my pocket. Come with me to work.
My dream. Well, I'm going to put your website in the bio and people can just get to know you and just learn a little more. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.